Hello. Jetsunma, thank you so much for your talks today, and I enjoyed watching the movie. My name's Charles, I'm from Melbourne. I find the idea of many different types of consciousness really helpful, because I must say at times I've felt confused by the idea that one of the aggregates that we're not to identify with is consciousness, and yet at the same time, as you're saying, that our deepest nature is a consciousness of a certain kind. So
yeah, it's non-dual consciousness. Yeah. It's not our ordinary conceptual thinking consciousness.
So what I wanted to ask was, given that consciousness, that non-dual consciousness, is described as luminous, clear, and cognizant, what the connection is to love or loving kindness and compassion, whether loving kindness and compassion are just ways of undoing the ego to reveal this, or whether they actually spring from it or are part of it, because it's not described as compassionate or loving, or it's just described as clear. And
No, I mean that luminous cognizance is the very nature of compassion and loving kindness. And love is just its nature, but it doesn't mention it in the Dzogchen text. And they talk about from that emanates this compassionate activity. Actually, they do mention that. Of course, I mean the thing is that while we are doing practices on loving kindness and compassion, basically, we are trying to bring ourselves back to our true nature. Our true nature is love and light and intelligence and wisdom. I mean, all these qualities are innate within us. When we are practicing compassion and loving kindness, we are not trying to bring into being something which is from outside. We are trying to reconnect with our true nature again. That's why when people are spontaneously, they see some suffering, spontaneously they feel it comes from inside here, not from here. That sense of empathy and love and compassion. It's something very deep inside. People say, I feel it here. And they feel it here, it's not up here. You know, just as, I don't know, I mean, so yes, although they talk about the empty clarity, that clarity itself is the very nature of compassion and love.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for your courageous example of using this lifetime for the benefit of others. And I really valued what you said this afternoon about lifestyle, our lifestyles, and the prevention of cruelty to animals. In the film, that wonderful film, you said in one part that you don't like giving talks. Oh. And I wanted to know if that has changed.
No.
Because all things change. You said earlier, everything changes, so I was wondering if that has changed.
That hasn't changed.
Okay. And I also wanted to know what you're excited about with the conference, the women's conference next year.
Well, I think Sakidita, Lynn told you about Sakidita. Sakidita was started in 1986, I think, yes, 1986, by a group of nuns, Kamalekshi Somo from America. She's a professor of Buddhism in America. The Venerable Dhammananda, before she got ordained, who is a Thai professor, and others, Thubten Chodron and so forth. With His Holiness the Dalai Lama was there. And they agreed that, you know, most emphasis in conferences and elsewhere is still very, and it's true today, it's very male-dominated. And the female voice is not being heard. And if there are a lot of males and monks present, the nuns and lay women are very subdued and cannot express their real thoughts. So they felt it was important to have a podium on which women could talk with women about what it is to be a Buddhist woman, and their thoughts, their ideas, their aspirations, and their history, you know. And so I don't know what Lynn told you, but anyway, every 2 years, a conference has been held in a different Buddhist country. We've practically run out of Buddhist countries. Some have done twice, And it's basically bringing in women, both monastics and lay women, to come together to talk about what being a Buddhist woman means for them. And there are academic programs where people give papers on research they've done in that particular country or whatever is the topic. And lots of very fun workshops. And meditations in all the different traditions. The other good thing is not only is it a women's conference, although of course, as I heard her saying, men are very welcome. And I mean, some monks come and they love it. Ajahn Brahm just adores it. He says it's the most fun he's had for years. And he likes fun, you know. So, and also Sujato, they're coming this time too. And women bring husbands. And I mean, it's not anti-male, it's just pro-female. And it allows women to talk about things, but in a totally non-sectarian. This is what I really love. It's not promoted by any organization. It's totally non-sectarian, so we have nuns and lay women from Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, and likewise from Vietnam, China, Korea, Taiwan, and the Tibetan representation, and everybody, both monastics and lay, everybody just comes together and just rejoices in being women together, hearing other women, meeting other women, practicing with other women in all the traditions. And rituals. In the beginning, on the opening day, nuns in the Theravada, for example, nuns in the Theravada chant the Sutra of Loving Kindness, the Metta Sutra, and then all the different Mahayana schools chant the Heart Sutra in their own way. So you get the Chinese chanting, the Vietnamese chanting, Korean chanting, Tibetan chanting. It's very beautiful. Everybody doing it in their own way, in their own robes, but they're all Buddhist women together. Isn't that lovely? So last time we were asked by the Asian groups, could we not do Sakidita in a non-Buddhist country? They were very curious about how Buddhism looks in the West. So it was clear that the obvious place would be Australia, because you're the closest to Asia. And also you have all these groups within, so there's the two sides. First there's the Anglo side, you know, the very FPMT and other groups. But then there are also the other Asian groups which are alive and thriving in Australia, who normally don't meet each other very much. So you have Vietnamese groups and Chinese groups and Korean, Sri Lankan, and so forth. So we thought it would be wonderful also for the women, especially from those, to come together and meet each other, as well as meeting with the Caucasians. And everybody together appreciating how Dharma is practiced in Australia. And so the Asians will see that, and they also will all come together to see each other. And so we think it's going to be really a very special. The topic is basically the challenges which Buddhism is going to be meeting in the 21st century. Because not just is Buddhism changing as it comes to the West, but it is also very much changing in Asia, as the new generation are highly educated. Traditionally in Asia, so many, the monks who had all the time and the training were the ones who had the expertise, right? They were the ones who were educated, they were the ones who were the professionals. But nowadays, of course, and ordinary people were not so highly educated. Nowadays, everyone is highly educated, and so often they're more educated than the monks, even in Buddhism. Because now they can read all the books and discuss it. I mean, I'm thinking like in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, many of the Buddhist groups now are run by lay people. And they might have a monk come, but they are basically themselves studying, discussing, practicing, and giving talks. And so the shift is happening even in Asia, of the lay people now coming into much greater prominence than previously, their role being to support the monastic sangha, especially the monks. Now everybody is joining in the way that the Buddha intended. He always talked about the fourfold sangha. Throughout all the sutras, he again and again emphasized the importance of the fourfold sangha: monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen. And he always said, if the fourfold sangha studies, practices, and propagates the Dharma will flourish. Never did he just say only monks. Never, anywhere. It was always the fourfold sangha. So now we have to make this balance, that the poor monastic sangha doesn't get swamped by the lay people, but the lay people now are in a position, because they are highly educated, to study and practice and propagate the Dharma. And so this again is a challenge for the lay people to step into their role, and at the same time for the monastics to recognize what their role is in this very different society with all its lot of challenges, especially as far as distraction is concerned. And so we are hoping to have some very interesting and insightful discussions on where Buddhism is heading now, not only in the West but very much also in Asia. From a woman's point of view, you're the mothers out there. You're going to be very much, directing where all of you now, how the Dharma, what is relevant in the Dharma now for you. And so please, all of those of you, as I say, males are also very, very welcome. It's not in any way a heavy feminist, anti-male thing. It's not in the least bit. Men are very useful. They can get rid of chairs. They're very, very useful. So we don't mind. Muscle is also there. So, yes, so please, all of you, it will be held next year in late June. And please keep looking, as Lynn showed you, the website, how we're getting on. But we really hope that as many of you as possible will please attend. It will be it's a wonderful thing. I hate conferences. But Sakadita is a very, very special conference. It's a lot of fun. And we also learn a lot, and it's a lot of bonding going on, and it's very, very, very positive and very needed in this world. So please keep attending.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Lee.
Yes.
I'm so happy to be here today. I have a metaphysical question, or maybe not so metaphysical. I just want to know, how can one become grounded in order to reach their higher vibrations?
That is a bit abstract. I don't know about metaphysical. By being present. The whole problem, we are not grounded because we are not here. Our minds are caught up in the past, they're caught up in the future, they're running around analyzing or interpreting or judging or everything what is happening in the present, and they just are not capable of being open and spacious to what is happening in the moment. This is our big problem, is that we are not here now. We're everywhere else, including flying in space, which is not where we are. If we want to be grounded, then we should be conscious of our feet on the ground, mindful. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jetsunma. I still remember His Holiness saying you were right and he was wrong, and I was very moved.
When?
It was a while back.
Okay.
I came back from Dharamsala from teaching nuns and monks and translators to, after a few months' rest, jumping back into high schools in Australia. And I saw the state in quite a lovely North Coast, lot of high schools, where the kids were really out of themselves and their eyes were spinning, particularly around the 13 to 15 age group. And last week I was at the Byron Bay Writers' Festival, and Clive Hamilton talked about his book Defiant Earth, about the Anthropocene age, which means the last 4 years have been the highest known temperatures recorded on the planet. And it was quite a startling sort of session with Greenpeace and the Green Movement, because Clive was basically saying that all the scientists are not speaking about the fact that we're moving into this, what they call the Anthropocene age, where we're beyond the tipping point. And when I came back to Sydney and I just saw everybody racing everywhere and these school kids racing all out of themselves, I thought to myself, what can we say to kids that's authentic? Yes, we've got ethics in schools sometimes, and they're trying to reintroduce Christianity back into schools, which is a little bit strange at the moment. But what is it, how can we really, really calm and nurture a country as beautiful as Australia and the children into some sort of hopeful future?
If I knew that, I could make $1 billion, right? But, you know, a while back we were in Peru, I think it was, and I was giving a talk at this girls' school. And afterwards I said to the principal, you know, really it would be nice if you taught mindfulness and meditation here. And she said, oh, but we do. She said, we're all practicing mindfulness and there's meditation every day. She said, you can't imagine how that has changed the whole dynamics of the school. She said, we wouldn't be without it now. And I think that is the point. I mean, because mindfulness is not Buddhist. I mean, it is Buddhist, but it isn't Buddhist. I mean, you don't have to be a Buddhist to be mindful, which is why it's taken off. It brings people back into being conscious of what's going on, which is what these young people don't have, because they're all so distracted in their mind, and what a heaviness that is. So it gives us it's so simple to bring us back just into this open awareness of the present moment. Such a relief. Just here, now, this. Doesn't need any equipment, doesn't need any special techniques. Anyone can do it. And people I know who have been to like intercity schools, invited to teach mindfulness. And they say that, you know, also the teachers have to learn, of course. But they say how amazing it was, how quickly the energy changed. And they were told when they went back weeks later that it has state changed, that they are practicing this, what they taught them, and that it wasn't just a moment, 5 minutes and then off they go again. Really made a fundamental change. This ability just to be mindful and aware. And so I think that's the best thing you can do for children, because it's not a matter of belief. It's not a matter of, conditioning anybody. It's just a matter of being present within yourself, in the moment. And it gives this inner silence, which is so lacking in the world nowadays. Inner space, inner silence, and just being. I think that's the greatest gift you can give to anyone. And children love it. Even little children respond very quickly. They get the idea very quick. They can do it. I think it should be taught in all schools.
They do teach it in a lot of schools here.
Good. They should. I mean, it's nothing to do with your religious beliefs or non-beliefs. It's nothing to do with anything. It's just to do with coming back into yourself, which everybody is so out that even the opportunity to spend a few moments back within yourself is such a blessing.
Hello, Jetsunma. Thank you so much for coming. Please return again and again. We were wondering about whether the Togdemna lineage was rekindled, and if not, is there any possibility? We're also wondering about the nunnery and the progress of the nuns, if any of them are teaching.
So our nunnery, which is called Donjugetsaling, is affiliated with a monastery called Kampagar, which now is reinstated about 10 minutes from our nunnery. And of course, Kampagar is a monastery like any monastery. But what was very special about Kampagar in Tibet and here in India is that they have this group of monks who are trained as yogis in the Milarepa tradition. And they are called Togden. Togden meaning realized ones. Tokpa meaning realization of nature of the mind. Den meaning having it. So they are trained, often their training lasts 15 to 20 years, during which they are not seen or hardly seen at all. And they just do practices, especially Mahamudra Dzogchen and the 6 yogas of Naropa. And so my Lama, Kamtu Rinpoche, he had asked me many, many years ago, he said that in Tibet, there was also the tradition of Togden Ma, the female Togdens, and other people also told me about those. And he said, but now, of course, that tradition has been broken. So I always pray that you will reinstate this very precious female lineage. So, I mean, the years went by, and eventually, anyway, around in the 90s, the late 90s, then the monks in my monastery asked me to start a nunnery, since the lamas asked me to start a nunnery, since there was nothing for the women. And then I remembered that my Lama Kamtu Rinpoche had said, I want you to start a nunnery. So I thought, okay, now's the time. So anyway, we've got it now. And within this nunnery, we now have about 110 nuns, I think. We have, the nuns mostly are studying. They're studying Buddhist philosophy. They also, of course, learn English, Tibetan, and various other things. The little ones study also mathematics and science and a bit of geography. But within that study program which they have, which lasts about 12 years, they also have another section which is the retreat center. And this retreat center is for nuns who want to train to become Togden Ma. So at the moment we have 8 nuns in that retreat center, most of whom have finished about 8 or 9 years now of retreat. And so they are in there, they stay in there, they meet each other, although they have each their own separate room. They are trained by the head Togden, the head yogi from Tashijong, who is now in his 80s, but he personally teaches them. And every 3 years they come out just to get health checkups and meet the other nuns and have a little rest, and then they're very quick to go and go back in again. So most of them, I think, are continuing to keep going until they are recognized as Tokden Ma, which will probably take another 9 years maybe. When great lamas come to visit them, such as the Karmapa, Mingyur Rinpoche, Songye Rinpoche, and all these lamas, they always spend hours with the Tokdens. And the Tokden Mas, our would-be Tokden Mas, are little yoginis who have long hair down to past their knees, some of them. And talking with them and individually giving them audiences to discuss their practice with them. And they also take them very seriously. So they're coming along very well. I see them every 2 weeks for a bit of a gossip. They usually know more what's going on than I do. They're fine, they're good, they're healthy, and they're very dedicated to their practice, so they're fine. All the nuns right now are in retreat because we have a 2-month retreat during the rainy season. It's now monsoons in India. So during July and August, they go into a silent retreat, so they are there now. And then they're going to do a Vipassana retreat for 10 days. And then we start new terms. So they're doing fine, everybody's well. And anybody's very welcome to visit if you happen to come to Himachal Pradesh. We're about 2 hours from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So if you're in that area, please do come and visit us. There are other monasteries also in that area, many monasteries. And we have a guest house called Tara House, and a cafe with excellent coffee called the Dragon Cafe. And we also have a small retreat center for women. So any women who would like to practice are welcome to come there, provided they know themselves what they need to practice. There's no teacher there to teach them. But anybody who has a practice already and wants to have a safe and conducive environment is welcome. And we're doing fine. Nuns now are on the up and up. You know, from when they started and how they were regarded by monks and lay people to the present day, where they are very respected for their level of scholarship. Now, nuns are teaching nuns. They're becoming geshe-mas. They're going to be kenmos, tokden-mas. They are learning that anything which the monks can do, they also can do. And everybody is respecting that and appreciating that. And certainly the monastery of Kambaga, Tashijong, the monks treat the nuns very much as their Dharma sisters and love them very much. And there's not a sense of, they're just very happy that they're there. And they're always very kind and very loving towards the nuns. And so, yes, so indeed, any of you who happen to find yourself in India, and in Himachal Pradesh, which is a very beautiful state of India, probably the nicest state in India, mountains and trees and flowers and very green and very pleasant, many monasteries and nunneries. His Holiness the Dalai Lama is there, the Karmapa, if he's in India, is there, many high lamas are there, and it's a very nice and peaceful state. So you're all very welcome. And yes, I think now we've more or less finished our time. So thank you all very, very much.
Oh,
yes. It's a quick one.
Thank you for coming. And if people go, please take some baked beans, Heinz baked beans. I brought them to you in India. Recently faced with excruciating pain that was probably going to end in death, but clearly didn't, my mindfulness went straight out the window. So given that it may be something that we might all face, what can be done in such a circumstance, like being hit by a bus and knowing you're going to die soon?
Well, dying soon, we're all going to die soon.
I know, but in terms of mind, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, I think as far as pain is concerned, the Buddha said that there are two kinds of pain, two kinds of dukkha. There is physical dukkha, physical pain, and that is unavoidable, having a human body. And there is mental pain, which means a resistance to the physical pain. And that is optional. We can have physical pain and resent it, or we can have physical pain and accept it. Personally, I recall when one time I was cutting wood and nearly cut my thumb off when I was in the cave, so there was nothing I could do. I just bound it up in a big cutter and sat there with the pain. And I thought, well, seeing this pain is very powerful, it would be a good object of meditation. So I sat there with the pain, and I just directed the attention to the pain. Not thinking pain, just thinking sensation. And it was really fascinating. I remember, after a while it was like an orchestra. You know, there was stabbing pains and grinding pains and throbbing pains and all different stratas of pain, and sometimes it would all come together as a big kind of, overture, and then it would be a soft kind of allegro, and, and then a little adagio, and then boom, back into the fourth symphony, and it was fascinating. And I sat there until finally it all kind of a little bit more quietened down. And then I recognized it was dark. Hours had passed. I'd never had such a good meditation. I was totally absorbed. And the thing was that the sensations were there, but the mental commentary, this is pain, was not there. And so because it was so powerful, it was a very good focus of attention. Not thinking pain, but how it feels. What kind of pain? Different kinds of pain. The pain isn't just pain. There's many different levels of pain. Fascinating. The other thing we can do is Tonglen, where we consider breathing in all the pain that everybody else is suffering, which is like my kind of pain, bringing it in onto ourselves and then transforming it into well-being for others and willing ourselves that we should take in the pain of all beings, which is a very powerful meditation which many great practitioners do when they're in, a state of great physical challenge. They practice Tonglen. So we can use it, is the question, And as to death, don't worry about it. The one thing, as the Buddha said, the one thing sure about life is death. We're all going to die. We've done it so many times, we should be experts by now. And isn't it fascinating? Now we're finally going to discover what happens. Everybody has their version of what comes next. Now we're finally going to find out. It's exciting. Let's see what happens next. And to die, use our life meantime, that we can die without regret. We've used our life meaningfully to benefit others as well as ourselves as much as possible. Now let go of any resentments, open our heart towards loving all beings and looking towards the light. And just see what happens next. It's exciting. The next great adventure. This is what Professor Dumbledore said to Harry Potter. For those with a well-regulated mind, death is but the next great adventure. So, regulate your mind so it becomes an adventure. Okay? Dumbledore